Alright, today what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be replacing a starter motor and a clutch bearing on this GP100 jetsurf. The process is basically the same for your Ultra Sport as well. So the things that you're going to need for this job is obviously your parts. This is your clutch bearing here. This is your starter motor. You might need some cable cutters. Just this spanner here that comes with your jetsurf, and then also a set of metric set Allen keys. So, alright, let's get into it. The first thing what you're going to do is you're going to remove the fuel tank, so just give yourself a bit more space. Alright, the next thing we've got to do is remove this cover here. So, just remove these two bolts. Just make sure you don't lose those screws. Usually I just put them in my pocket. Otherwise just use a small bucket, something like that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the front gears. Now if you're just replacing the starter motor, you don't need to remove the front gears. You can actually get to these bolts without removing the gears, so you can just do that job by itself. You're not always going to have to replace all of them at the same time. So the first thing what I'm going to do when I want to take this gear off, I've got to take this smaller one out. So what you need to do is just put something in there so it doesn't move when you spin the bolt out. The next thing what I'm going to do is, it's just at the back here, behind here. So what you actually have to do is put your Allen key through the starter motor, and you probably can't see it on the camera. It's right underneath all the bolts here, but the nut's just at the back of it. It'll probably be a bit more clear when I take it out. Pretty tight, so I'll try and just put this on top, see if I can get it to budge. There's the screw there. I accidentally dropped a washer, but I'll just grab that in a few ticks. And then you can get this wheel out here. Now you see the teeth here, they sometimes wear down, so just check that that's not the problem, that it is still grabbing when the starting system is working. Next thing what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this here. So first you have to take off this nut. So just get that nut off there, make sure you don't lose it. And then sometimes these can be hard to slide out, but sometimes they come right out. It just depends. A common thing is if people haven't greased their bearing, they actually rust onto the shaft, which it can make it quite difficult to get these off. This one seems to be okay. Just got to get it over this engine now. Here. That is a broken clutch bearing. See how that just shattered into pieces when I took it off. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to be removing the starter motor. Again, you don't need to take all the gears and everything off just to change a starter motor. I'm just doing it for an example on this video. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to remove it. So there's 4 bolts that hold the starter motor in. There's 2 over here and there's 2 at the back here. Some very important things to point out is make sure that you rehook this earth wire back up when you're done. And there's another bolt just down the bottom here. It's quite a pain to reach, but you can get it. So I'm going to just start removing these screws here. One's already halfway out. Another one. Try not to cover it with my hands. Also need to remove the earth wire that's sitting on the top of the starter motor, which is just over here. To these 2 bolts. Try not to drop them. So here's the one right down the bottom. This is going to be your most difficult bolt. Too bad to get out, but we'll see how it treats us when it's going back in. Alright, now the last thing, just disconnect the starter motor from the ECU, which is just this clip here. Works the same way as your battery charger, just clips off. And basically that's how you remove your starter engine. So now we've done that, I'm just going to slide my starter motor back on. Bolts to line up, and now I'm just going to get some of my medium strength Loctite. I always stress this, it's very important though, only medium strength. If you use the full strength stuff, next time you go to replace your starter motor, you're never going to be able to get it off, or with great difficulty. So just a little bit of Loctite, and just screw these 2 bolts in here, in front. for the two back ones. So here's a little trick for the last bolt. This is what I do sometimes because it's a bit hard to hold the bolt on the end of your Allen key. So I just wrap a bit of plastic around like that, and what I find is it just tends to make it straight, and it's just a bit easier to put back on again. So a bit of Loctite, and wish me luck with this last one. So alright, seems to have started. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be putting my clutch bearing back in. You see this just kind of squeezes over the top here. Now the most important thing with this is make sure it goes in the correct way. So look at the way that I'm putting it in. See which way the teeth are facing on my camera. So just take note of that. And it goes on in that direction, because this is a one-way bearing. So sometimes these are a little bit of a struggle to put on. So I half put it on, and then I try and put the gear over the top. Sometimes you just have to move it around a little bit to get them on. Alright, so our clutch bearing is in and the wheel's on. So I'm just going to put that nut back on to secure the wheel. It doesn't have to be extremely tight. So once you put that back on, just make sure that no bolts are hitting this wheel here. And then we're going to put this gear back in. So it just slides back into place where it was before. And then I'm going to put that bolt on again. I like to use the same trick what I used with the starter motor on this. Basically, this bolt kind of needs to be held in place, so I usually just put a bit of plastic over the top of it, and it seems to do the trick. So I just have to wrap that again. Put a bit of the medium strength Loctite on. And just screw it back into the gear. So again, just put something in there to hold it in place. Again. Alright, so now that's in place. And the last thing I need to do is just connect up my battery, put my front cover on, and hook up the starter motor. So basically the front cover is just going to sit on the top like this, and you're just going to put the clips on basically the way it came. So this customer's lost a few clips, so I might need to improvise a little bit, but we'll see how we go. So first what I'm going to do is I'm going to just hold it in place. So I'm just going to put this one on here to hold it. Try and do this bolt up a little bit tighter. Reconnect this earth wire here. Just put this clip back on. Okay, next thing what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use a couple of cable ties, just make sure that none of my wires have any chance of hitting here or the drive shaft. So this is the bilge pump line here. Usually I just connect that to my starter motor there. Making sure it doesn't hit the drive shaft. Then what I usually do is I just hook these lines up here with another cable tie. And just cut the tops off them. So that's basically how you you exchange your starter motor and your clutch bearing.